Hi everyone, it's Abby from Pot Dispensary. Today I'm going to show you how to coil a vessel. So coiling is a great method if you're wanting to build vessels upward. They're great for adding on to your pinch pots or adding onto slabs. It's very versatile and it's the type of hand building that I lend myself to the most. So I'm going to show you the basics today so that you can create whatever you like. Obviously I'm at home, I'm in my kitchen, I've got my little piece of material down so that my bits and pieces don't stick. But if you have a work surface that you're comfortable getting a little bit messy, feel free to use that. I would say to use the material for your base, just so that it doesn't stick to what you're working to. So what we're going to do first of all is create a base for our vessel. So I've just got a little bit of piece of clay here that I've already cut off the block. You can use your cutting wire, or if it's a small piece, sometimes I use my knife. Don't tell Alex, she is very particular about how to cut clay. I'm a little more rustic, but it's always up to you. So got a bit of clay. I'm going to press it between my hands to create a base. You could start with a pinch pot, you could roll it out as a slab if you want to, depending on what you're making and whether you're going to see the bottom of it. I'm going to make a little pot so it doesn't bother me too much. I'm just pressing that out. Then you can use a cup or something to trace your shape. I'm just going to use my knife and cut a rough circle, because I'm just going to make a little circle pot today. Go to the side. So now I'm just going to smooth it out around the side so it's not so rough, and then flatten it out a bit because she looks a bit thick there. Probably want about 1 to 2 centimeters, so that looks about right. So now what we're going to do is create our coils. So I've got a piece of clay here, and what I'm going to do is squeeze it into a sausage shape into my hands here and make a bit of a rough sausage. And then to make your coil, you're just going to place it on your piece of material or your work surface, and you're going to start rolling. To keep it nice and circular, I try and use long rolling motions. I find that when you do it quite short, it tends to lose its circular shape. You don't have to be super particular when you're making your coils, although I will say if they're even in size, it does make your vessel more even, the walls more even. So see how it's flattened out a little bit? I'm just going to push it down and squeeze it to shape in my hands here. Keep rolling. This is going to be a very long coil, so I might even take my knife tool, just cut it in half and work in more manageable pieces. You do lots of coiling. So while you're doing this, you could put on a playlist. Alex has put together a couple of playlists that we're listening to in the studio at the moment. We've got more of a groovy one, and then we've got a chill one as well. Some good potting vibes. So we've got one coil there. I've made a couple already, so I'm just going to roll that up. May as well finish this little coil. Perfect. So now we want to attach the coils to the base. So I've got the base here. Now you can score the base to try and make sure that it really does attach. It isn't absolutely necessary. You don't have to do that, and I don't do that every single time. But for this instance, let's do it. So I'm just going to go around the edges nice and rough. Go in the opposite direction. You can also use the other side of your potter's thumb to do this. It's a nice little textured moment. And then what you're going to do, this coil's looking a bit thick, is start building up. So just going to make sure that you're pressing down when you're doing this into the base, just to make sure there's no air bubbles in between. Got another coil, just looking a bit thick. So then instead of joining right next to where you left off, I tend to overlap a little bit and push down just to make sure that we don't have gaps. I'm just going to continue to build up. Great. And pinching down, pinching and pushing down. So now we've got our coils on there and we've got our little base. So now what we're going to do is take the other side of our potter's thumb. You can use your finger at this point, but I prefer the potter's thumb. And what we want to do is smooth that first coil down into the base. Like so. I'm going to pop it down just so that the bottom stays nice and flat. Going to look like this at this point. And now what I'm going to do is smooth down the coils on the inside. So all the way. So when it's looking a bit rough, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to take the side of my potter's thumb and just kind of smooth it a little bit. This is compressing everything as well, which is great to minimize any cracks, especially if you want your vessel to hold water, like if you're making a little vase, you definitely don't want any cracks. So by smoothing everything out, you're also compressing everything. You can also use your kidney to do this. It's not essential, especially if your vessel is not being, the inside is not going to be seen. So I've moved everything out, and now we're going to do the same from the outside. So now I'm going to go from the bottom with my potter's thumb up against, in the opposite direction to which we've coiled. And I'm supporting the underside while I do this, and while I was doing the outside, I was supporting the outside. This is just going to make sure that you're not pushing everything out or pushing it in too much. Really making sure I'm getting that clay from the base and the bottom. Okay, so smoothed everything on the outside, so we can't see any of those joins now. And now I'm going to continue building up. So this is where our last coil joined. So I'm just going to push that down and make sure it's nice, got a good connection. Taking another coil, and I am continuing this process. So we're pushing down, and now I'm going to start to try and bring my coils inward. So the way I'm positioning them when I'm coiling is just coming on in. And we're going to squeeze everything. Make sure that everything's nice and tight. You can also give it a little bit of a hug if you see it starting to slump a little bit. And also for any vessels that you're building up quite tall, sometimes what I will do is actually leave them and let them set a little bit before I continue to build them up. You can also start with thicker coils at the bottom and then thin them a little bit at the top, especially if it's going to be quite tall. Just giving it a little hug, making sure everything's nice and supported. And now we're going to repeat the process. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Get ourselves a little pot here. Now it might look a little bit rough at this very point, but there's a lot you can do with these. You can change their shape and mold them as you go. So I'm going to now do the other side. Scraping everything, compressing everything, joining it all. Holding the opposite side. So even though we did this process at the bottom here, I'm still going from all the way from the bottom up. All right, looks a bit rough, but we're going to transform it with our rubber kidney. I'm just giving it a little bit of a hug, making sure everything's nice. You can also, sometimes I sneakily do this, if I want to bring something in, is you can pinch together. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just kind of pinch and overlap a little bit, bringing the vessel together. All right, now rubber kidney. This is where the magic happens. We're going to smooth it out. What I might actually do, since I don't need those tools, so I'm going to fold this up and make it a little bit more manageable. I'm going to take my rubber kidney and we're going to support the underside and we're going to smooth it out. So you'll notice there's areas here where there's gaps, and that's where you just smooth them out. So everything's looking quite smooth. I'm going to trim the top. All right. Now I'm going to clean it up using my knife tool. Roughly even. Now I'm just going to flip it over, press down on the base, and while I'm here, I can just smooth out this joint a little bit more using my rubber kidney. Getting a little bit of a circular vibe. or more rounded, I should say. There you have a cute little round circular-ish pot. You can continue to build this up as much as you like. You can make a little bowl if you like. The world is your oyster when it comes to coiling. If you have any questions, please reach out to us and we can help you with any issues that you may be facing. But really, it's all about the fun and the experience. I really enjoy just setting out, not setting out with any intentions for what I'm making, just having a bit of fun and see what happens. So I hope you enjoy and you enjoyed this little tutorial and it's helpful. If you have any questions, let us know. Bye.